Welcome to chapter 19. We're going to learn some new grammatical forms in this chapter, but the real challenge in this chapter is going to be the text, because this is going to be the first text that has not been simplified for non-native speakers. This is a text that is on the level that is equivalent in difficulty with one that you might find in a Mari language newspaper. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but it's a challenge we can manage, I would like to think. Okay, so the first point in grammar that we're going to look at is, we'll have a few derivational suffixes in this chapter. The first one is the deverbal nominal suffix mash. This is just a nominalization. It's fully productive, and it is used to turn a verb into a noun. We have already encountered a few words that use this suffix, like yarate mash, love. We've seen that many times over. And it is, for those of you that know Finnish or Estonian, it is roughly equivalent with Finnish minen and Estonian mine. What is the difference between this and the passive participle used as a verbal noun that we have seen? Well, when we have used the passive participle as a verbal noun, like in combination with a postposition, roughly speaking, we still want to, we do that when we want to stick a verb into a slot that is usually meant for a noun, but we still want to use it as a verb doing verby things, having its verbal government and etc. With this mash, this is really just to turn a noun that you use as a noun however you want from a verb. So for example, if we have like a subordinate clause using a passive participle, we could be saying something more like, I am talking about, well, let's talk about reading a book, or let's talk about how I read a book or something like that. But if you would use this normalization, it would be more like, let's talk about reading, about the like an abstract concept or so, rather than a concrete reference to an event. Okay, the formation is straightforward. It is just mash attached to the verbal stem with all the usual processes that we are used to at this point. But let's still see if we can form them all. And let's start with Sonia.
Ludash, ludmash.
Very good. Then Luan.
Nalash, nalmash.
Very good. Then Gopal. Can't hear Gopal, so Sandra.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Now.
Tunemash.
Yep. And here's
to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's another one where we have a geminate vowel on the morpheme boundary, and where it's important to pronounce it heavier in a way, like, or to like have it as in both syllables, like right, tunemash and tunemash. Yeah, then Sandra.
Kochkash, kochmash.
Very good. Then Kelvin.
Shinchash, Ichmash.
Yep.
No N.
Yep, very good. And Reka?
Lektash, lektmash.
That's
Lekmash,
it. Yeah. Then Sonia?
Vuzash, vozmash.
Yep. Then Luan?
Purash, puremash.
Very good. And Gopal?
Ilash, ilamash.
Yep. Then Sandra?
Keshash, keshemash.
Yep. And Kevin?
Kayash, Kayamash.
Yep. Very good. So nothing overly tricky in the formation. But there is one thing that we should be careful of, and that is if we attach the local case suffixes to it. there is a bit of variation that occurs here. So if, let's take, for example, senge, to win, to defeat, and from that come to sengemash, victory, defeat, or whatnot. Important word, and like just exactly 1 week ago, on the 9th of May, saw it a lot on Russian, social media, because Dien Pobedy, the Victory Day, this big event, the celebration for the end of the Second World War in Russia, in Mari is in Sengemash Keche. And so on Mari social media, you see a lot. Okay, but so if we have Sengemash, victory, and we attach then the initiative ending, ishte, ishto, ishte, or the illative ending, ishke, ishko, ishke, we have an optional haplology here. So a haplology is when we have a repeating pattern of sounds in a word, and we simplify them, we pull them together. Like for those of you that know German, like if you have a magician is a Zauberer, and a female magician is not a Zaubererin, which would be the regular way, but a Zauberin. That this is gets tedious, so it's pulled together and you just have one. And this is why when linguists are being extra funny, they'll call a haplology a haplogy, which is not actually the correct term, but would be very fitting. So if we have sengemash, the regular way of having an initiative form in a victory would be sengemashishte. But in a similar way, like we had in the ordinal numbers away, this shish thing, often you pull it together to just have then sengemashte. As a note, this is not actually something particular to the mash suffix. Any polysyllabic stem ending in a sh will show the same process. Like if we have muchash and we can also there have muchashte or muchashishte, both work. So, and if we have the illative, here we then actually have 3 distinct forms. We have the shortened form, sengemashke. We have sengemashishke, the regular long form, and then we have the regular short form, sengemashish. So we have the sengemashishke. We have 2 ways that we can shorten it. We can drop off the ke, or we can have an haplology here and turn this shish into a sh. So this time I looked actually in the corpus, what's the relative frequency of all these forms. And just specifically for this one form, sengemash, I looked what you find. So in the corpus sengemashishte, we find 34 times, and sengemashte 34, sengemashishte 2 times. So more common than not, Maris will use the haplology and make this form shorter. In the illative, it's a bit more complicated. So the least popular form is the long form, where we have all of this. But then the 2 shortenings both of them are fairly popular, but this one, the sengemashke, the haplology shortening, is a bit more popular than the dropping the ke form of the illative. Yeah, but important for now is that you know to accept all of these forms. You'll encounter them all. Okay, then I would so if there's anything, if I'm too fast at some point, if you want any additional information, please interrupt me so I can give additional information. But I would move on to the next deverbal nominal suffix. So in addition to mash, we also have a suffix sh or ish, depending on, like ish if we need a linking vowel. And we have already encountered a few of these nominalizations, and the ish, this derivational suffix, this is used to form nouns that are not it doesn't denote the action itself, but an object created by the action often enough, or an abstract concept created or in some other way connected with the verb. For example, if you take the verb yodash with the verbal stem yod, I'm always giving the verbal stems here when we're looking at derivational morphology. It's easier like this. If we take yodash to ask, and we ask something, the result of asking somebody a question is then yodish. If we have modash, to play, and like the thing playing, if we are playing, if we have a game or so, or a toy, then we have modish. If this is a loan morpheme, I'm not sure. I would have to look this up. Off the top of my head, I don't know. If we have kochkash, to eat, the thing that one eats is kochkish. And if we have peledash, to bloom, the thing that blooms is peledish. In previous lessons, when we've had derivational morphology, people have asked, can this only be connected to stems of the second conjugation? And I have said previously that usually conjugation class doesn't matter. Here it is somewhat interesting, though, that even though the first conjugation is less common than the second conjugation, and even though we have some transitive verbs here, they're all first conjugation verbs. And is this a coincidence? Well, yes and no. I don't know this for sure, but second conjugation is not, to get it out of the way immediately, second conjugation is not incompatible with this derivational suffix. So if we, for example, have a verbal stem jongelo, to err, to make a mistake, we can use this suffix to create jongelish, a mistake or an error. Likewise, from ilash, to live, we can have ilish, life. But I have a feeling that I have not yet corroborated that it is actually less common in the second conjugation. And I don't know if this is true, but a feeling that I have, one factor might be, is that if we're in the second conjugation, if we take like jongelish, if we take jongelo and the form jongelish, jongelish would also be the first past tense, third person singular form. I erred, jongelishim, you erred, jongelishich, he, she, they erred, jongelish. So I could imagine that this systematic homonymy that occurs might disincentivize Mari native speakers to to attach this verb or this derivational suffixes to second conjugation verbs. I don't know if this is true. It's just something I could imagine, but it would need systematic research. In any case, this suffix is not usually, it is somewhat common, but it is not productive, usually. I'll come to the exceptions in a moment, which this means you should recognize it, you should learn, but you shouldn't learn individual verbs, individual nouns that use it, like yodish, modish, kochkish, peledish, jongelish, ilish. You shouldn't, like with mash you can attach to any verb you encounter. This one I would only attach to I would only use in specific lexemes in which you have used it. I said that it is not usually productive. An exception is in purist circles, like the Mari linguist Ivan Ivanov, who brought out 2 dictionaries of neologisms over the course of his career. The second one came out after his death, but it's like over 400 pages of neologisms that he suggests be introduced in Mari to replace Russian loanwords. For Ivanov, you get the feeling that this suffix was productive because he attaches it to anything and everything when creating neologisms. And the resulting neologisms are usually understandable for Mari native speakers, but you have to be Ivan Ivanov to like just willy-nilly attach it to any verb that you run into. So it's not a fully organic thing. It is like when it is used very widely, it is a pointed attempt to create neologisms. Okay. Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah. What is the difference between like kochkush and kochmash?
Kochkish is the thing, the food that you eat, and kochmash is the act of eating.
Okay, so is that the same for like say yodmash and yodish?
Yes.
Like every other. Okay.
Yes, this is systematic. That the mash thing is always a reference to the action, the asking, the playing, the eating, the blooming, the airing, or whatnot. And the sh word is always an object or an abstract notion connected to, often created by that action.
Okay.
Okay, so then we have another two derivational suffixes coming up. The first one is ang. And this is attached. This one is fully productive. You can attach it to anything you want to. And it is attached primarily to nouns to indicate that something takes up the thing denoted by the noun. So it denotes a transformation of sort. Less productive it is when attached to adjectives, but it happens too. And that is like just to take up the quality denoted by the adjectives. For example, if we have a noun, be, force, power, strength, and we want to form a verb connected to that, like just to become stronger, to gain strength, like to take force, to acquire force. That then has a verbal stem viang. It's just then to become stronger. And if this might remind you of something, and that is we know an adjectival suffix that is fairly similar to this. We had vian, strong. And the formation is fully equivalent. The process by which it's connected to the stem. I find it quite plausible that there is an etymological connection, but I don't know, so I'm not going to bet on that. But regardless of if there's an etymological connection or not, one can make an intracranial connection. One can keep them connected in one's mind. That if we have these an adjectives, then an an verb will mean to become this. We have vian, it means strong, and viang means to become strong. And as I said, it is productive. Like we have microbi, a microbe. I hope that the stress is right. I forgot to check it. Russian stress patterns are the bane of my existence. But so if we have microbi, a microbe, we can have microbian, to become microbe infested, for example. And this is something I took from the corpus. I specifically looked for Russian loanwords with ang, because Russian loanwords are always a fun metric for productivity in morphology, because we can assume that they only entered the language. The Russian influence on Mari as a strong dominant factor is only dates back to the 20th century. That there are some Russian loanwords that are earlier, but the critical mass of Mari loanwords there are some Russian loanwords that are earlier, but the critical mass of Russian influence only happened in the last 100 years. So we can have then microbian, to become microbe infested, connect, then also one can associate that with microbian, an adjective, microbe infested, or having microbes literally. I'm the infested aspect. This is my inference that one isn't happy about the microbes. I don't know. It could also be that one has like a zoo of microbes where one is happy to have microbes. Conjugation class, yes, it's first conjugation. Sorry, I should have made that clear on the slides. But it's that if I showed here the verbal stem ending in a consonant, that then implies first conjugation. But I should have made it explicit. Okay, so in the denominal usage, it is fully productive. You can attach to any noun you feel like. De-adjectively, I would be a bit more careful, but one does have things like kumda, wide, broad, and then we have kumdang, to become wide, to become broad. There is a different suffix that is connected to has a somewhat similar meaning, that's m, and that is more productive actually. Like sayemash would be to improve, to become better, and that's the default one I would attach to an adjective if one is not sure. Okay, so much about this suffix. from my side, I'll get, but then the next suffix that we're going to look at, it is somewhat, there is a connection here, not an etymological one, but a functional one. And that is a deverbal verbal suffix with the forms d or t that we use. You attach d or t to a verbal stem to create, and this is a transitivizing one, you attach a d or a t to a verbal stem to create a transitive verb. This is something that we have throughout the Uralic language family. This is the same form, the same suffix that we have in Finnish, for example. If we have jäädä to stay somewhere and jättä to leave something somewhere, that we had the t there to make a transitive form out of an intransitive one. We also have transitivizing t in the Turkic languages. This seems to just be either a coincidence or just a type, for some reason, a typologically common thing that one has a t as a transitivizing element of some sort. Advocates of the Uralo-Altaic hypothesis will take this as an argument for a genealogical relation, but I'm not going to go there. So it has the forms d and t, and the t form is not really productive. I would remember in connection with individual stems, which you're going to see on the next slide. The d form of it, this is productive in some contexts. For example, in combination with this suffix the ang suffix that we were just looking at. For any ang verb that you have created, you can attach a d to it to create a second conjugation. Sorry, these are all second conjugation verbs then. To create a second conjugation transitive verb that means then to make something XYZ. So if we have viangash, to become stronger, we could have viangdash, a second conjugation verb to make something stronger, to strengthen something. If we have mikrobiangash, to become microbe infested, we could have mikrobiangdash, second conjugation to infest something with microbes. Oh, there's a typo here. I have to fix that. And if we have kumdangash, to widen something, we could have kumdangdash, second conjugation to broaden. So if kumdangash is to widen, broaden intransitive, kumdangdash is to broaden something transitively. Here we see when I introduced the conjugation classes back in the days of yore, I mentioned a weak non-deterministic connection between the first conjugation class and intransitivity and the second conjugation class and transitivity. Just said it's not at all deterministic, but there is a correlation that like first conjugation class likes intransitivity and second conjugation class likes transitivity. Sorry, I'm hoping I'm not mixing these words up and making things confusing. But we see this connection here, that this ang derivational suffix, which creates intransitive verbs, creates verbs of the first conjugation class, and this the derivational suffix that creates transitive verbs, that creates verbs of the second conjugation class. So here, this non-deterministic relationship that we were talking about early on, here it is a categorical thing that when in there with these derivational suffixes at least. So yeah, it's good to keep this correlation in the back of one's mind. So these are now the d forms that we were looking at, where we can say that it is productive in a within a limited scope, like in combination with this other derivational suffix. About the t forms here, there are individual lexemes that one has to learn when one gets to it. There's, for example, we have purash, to go in, the verb stem puro, and then we have purto, purtash, to go in, to bring something in, to enter something, the transitive verb. So it's also it's both like literally carrying something into a room or bringing something in, bringing the horses in the stables. Like I think we had it when in the countryside when the herd was being brought into the stable. But it could also be like data entry into a form, like in a digital context. That's then also the verb that people use, portás. We can have volar with the verb stem volo, to descend, to go down. And then we can have voltar with the verb stem volto, which is to bring something down, to lower something. So yeah, this is just something to, these are just individual lexemes to learn, like in Finnish, like I would classify this in Finnish, that one should learn while also seeing the system that is in place here. Okay, any questions about these derivational suffixes before we move on to the next topic? Great. So the next topic is the compound past tense 2, which one should remember in connection with the compound past tense 1, because its formation is almost the same and its usage is also almost the same. It is just distinguished by one factor, evidentiality. If we are talking about things that are a direct observation or not, we'll look at the minutiae of that once we have looked at the form. So the formation is almost the same. It is like in the compound past tense 1, we take the present tense of a verb and we put the form ulmash afterwards, which is to be in the second past tense, third person singular. In the first compound past tense, we had ille, which is in the first past tense form of to be. Ulmash is the second past tense form of to be. Yeah, so it's exactly the same, the formation, just where we had ille before, we had ulmash. We have ulmash now. And let's try to form all the forms. And this time I'm going to say, if we're doing verbal paradigms, I'm going to participate too as the last person in the group, because otherwise, if we have 6 people, the same person would always end up with the same form. But let's start with Sonja.
Ludam, ulmash, and the negative as well.
Oh, I guess we can do it like that. And,
okay,
yeah, as well.
And then lut ulmash.
Yep. As a note, sorry, the form is, oops, sorry, now people got spoilers. They're going to appear in a different order here. Just as a note, this ludam, ulmash, this particular form is somewhat rare, but we'll get to it. Okay, then Luan, second person.
So the positive form is ludat ulmash, and negative ot lud ulmash.
Yep. Then third person, Gopal.
Ludesh ulmash.
Yep. And what would the negative be?
Oklut ulmash.
Yep. And also ogeshlut ulmash would also work, but yep. Sandra.
Ludena ulmash and onalut ulmash or ogena lut.
Yep.
Ulmash.
Right. Then Kelvin.
Ludada ulmash, oda lud ulmash.
Very good. And Reka, the last one.
Okay, ludit ulmash and ogat lud ulmash.
Yep. Very good. So here come the negative forms. And yeah, I'm not going to do a second conjugation verb because it's exactly the same. And
you may have mentioned this, but what is the ulmash? Like, what is it exactly?
Okay, so I mean, originally, historically, it is the mash normalization that we had, that we looked at the beginning, like the equivalent to yarate being or so. But it has, through processes that are not transparent to me, it became the second past tense form of to be. So it's like was. Okay. Like if I want to say that Beethoven was a famous composer, I would say Beethoven lümle compositor ulmash, or something like that.
Okay. So is it used in replacement for the oh no, so it's just a second compound past tense for the verb to be.
It's actually ulmash itself is used in the second morphological past tense. So it's like it's where you'd have luden for ludash, you from ulash, rather than having the regular predictable ulen, you have ulmash.
Oh,
so
okay.
This ulen form in Meadow-Mari, it doesn't exist at all. In other dialects and also in Hill-Mari, it is used. Like in Hill-Mari, the past tense form of ulash, which there is then ilash, is then ilan. But Meadow-Mari doesn't do this. In Meadow-Mari, there's been this shift that the nominalization has become the second past tense form.
Okay, then what about like lian? Because if I remember right, that was what was mentioned as the second past form.
Yeah, that also exists. So this is something we will get back to in a more systematic fashion at some point. That there are often you will have, if you look at the paradigm of ulash and liyash, that there are some forms of ulash that are not used at all. And there are some forms where you can either use a form of ulash and of liyash. When this is the case, then ulmash usually is more used to define static and long-lasting things, and lian would more be used to denote perfective, short-lasting things. But it is not clean or clean-cut or very systematic. I believe that there is something similar to this in Hungarian, where one also has two stems of for to be, and that usually, like if you in the indicative, like if you use the indicative forms, it's very clear the difference. That like if you the difference between vodjok and lesek, it would be like I am and I will be in that form. But if you're like in the conditional, if you have like volna and then I can't remember lenne, I think it would be. The difference, it becomes fuzzy, and like even native speakers start having a hard time telling you what the difference is between the two, because you have these two stems that are taking over the functional load of to be with these differences, sometimes clear-cut differences, but there's some contexts where it just becomes very hard to put your finger on it. In any case, so ulmash as like the form of the past tense form of ulash. Its usage in these compound past tense forms that we see it. All of this, everything we're seeing here is Turkic code copying, that Turkic languages do these same patterns, and Mari is imitating the Turkic patterns, and it needs something to put in there where Turkic languages would be using a more Turkic form. I hope that was in any way insightful or helpful. But I would, in any case, I would suggest that this ille and ulmash, that these forms, we will encounter them a lot in compound forms, in compound past tense forms, and they pretty much always will have this distinction of direct evidence and indirect evidence. Sorry, it sounds a bit like the evidential bond. Yeah. I think what's in the chat, I've addressed this already. Yeah. Okay. So, and yeah, here then also the paradigm of ulmash in the of ulash in this second compound past tense too. So what is the difference between these two past tenses? And like as I said, it's one of direct evidence and indirect evidence. Like if you're saying mi iziem godem choderash kostash yaratem ilya. So mi, I yaratem ilya, I used to love, kostash, to go, choderash, into the forest, iziem godem, when I was small. So it's my little during, this is like this is a very popular phrase in Mari. When I was little, I used to love going to the forest. What if you're talking about your grandfather, though, that your grandfather, when he was young, he would like to go into the forest? Well, odds are you were not there to watch your grandfather go into the forest as a kid. So here you would then say, Kocham, izish godem chorash, koshtash, yarata ulmash. You have to then use the ulmash thing because you were not a witness, but you're just trusting what is told to you. And this is like an example that shows how evidentiality is different from epistemic modality. Often sources will mix and conflate these two terms. Epistemic modality is if you in some grammatical manner imply like an evaluation to a stateful, doubt to a statement. Like speakers of German will know this, that sollen, for example, is often used as an epistemic modal marker. Like, mein Bruder soll sich ein neues Auto gekauft haben. My brother supposedly bought a new car or so. And if you're using this construction, mein Bruder soll sich ein neues Auto gekauft haben, you are implying a certain amount of doubt or so. Like, you're not 100% certain in this statement. You heard it as a rumor and you want to imply this, that you are giving statements that you are uncertain about. But if you're talking about your grandfather whom you loved and whom you trusted and about his childhood, you wouldn't in German say, mein Großvater soll, als klein war, immer in den Wald gegangen sein, or something like that. It's just, you would not have this need to express this doubt about what your grandfather did in his childhood. You're just telling what he did, which even though it's like indirect evidence, you weren't there, you still are assuming to be true. And obviously epistemic modality and evidentiality, these two categories, they can flow into each other at times, but they're still not the same thing. Okay, but this example here might imply something which I already mentioned when I said that Sonia's form, that she formed, is not actually super common. Something that we see if we look into the corpus, and that is, let's just count. How often do we find these compound past tense forms, the first and the second, in the first in all 6 persons? Just a total number in the corpus. And what we find is this. So in the compound past tense 1, we see some differences between the different person that one can assume to be for extra linguistic reasons. Like more first person singular than second person singular. I'm pretty sure that this is true with the indicative in pretty much any language, because you more often will be talking about yourself than you're going to be talking about the person that you are addressing. Generally, conventionally, I would say. And third person singular is in the most common, because more often you will be speaking about other people, animals, things, whatever. Okay, but so we can take the compound past tense 1 like as our baseline of frequency of the different persons. And then Sandra was saying that it doesn't sound unnatural to me. That was still about the grandfather thing. Yeah, it's not unnatural, but it is still communicating an uncertainty, I would say, which the ulmash does not necessarily. Okay, so if we use this as a baseline and then look at the compound past tense 2, we see, okay, for third and second person, it's roughly equivalent what we see here in the compound past tense 2 and the compound past tense 1. But if we look at the first person, we see a sudden drop. That here we had in the compound past tense 1, we had the first person singular was the second most common form, but in the compound past tense 2, it's way down there below the second past tense. Below the second person singular. And I think this has fairly, like, the reasonings here, what we're seeing here, this is called first person effects. This is a very common thing in languages that have evidential forms. How often does it happen that you are reporting something that you yourself did, but weren't a direct witness to? Like, it happened. There are contexts where it is imaginable. Like, you were out on the town drinking and you got so wasted that the next day you didn't remember all the stuff you did, and you're telling your friends what you did, but you have no direct evidence of this. Like I believe that I've heard anecdotally that like students of Turkic languages will often, if they get the evidential forms wrong, that they might make implications of this, like that they don't remember their own actions. A more innocent example might be you're telling something from your childhood that you have from a phrase of your life that you have no memory of. But there are other cases, and I took two examples from the corpus. Luana already found these earlier, and they're very nice examples showing what it might mean if we're using compound past tense to in the first person, singular or plural. And what we have in the corpus is we have ilenat kertam ulmash tridechet posna. So ilen with this additive at, so and living or whatnot, kertam ulmash. So like I could live posna without you. So I could live without you. Why are we using the compound past tense to here? Or mogai mi ulam ulmash. Like mogai, what kind? Or like what, like as an adjective? Mi, I, ulam ulmash, I am. Both of these are showing a phenomenon called mirative extension. And so mirativity is there are languages that have an own grammatical category for this, like Chechen is a fairly well-known category. Like in Chechen, you have an own grammatical marker that you use to denote that some information is surprising, that it deviates from what your expectation would be. Sudden realization, yeah, this is what we're looking at. And so in like a language like English or German that does not have mirativity as a grammatical context, we can still express mirativity through intonation. Oh, Peter came. Like if I say Peter came, this would be just like, oh, I saw that he comes. It's just a realization. But I say, oh, Peter came. This implies that I wasn't expecting him to come, but he did. So like, and Chechen does this with like what English does with intonation, Chechen does with a morpheme. And many languages that have evidential forms do it by so-called mirative extension, which means that originally evidential forms also take on this mirative meaning of to denote that something is surprising, that something that you realize something, that something deviates from what your a priori expectation was. So, and there's not like we can't have a grammatical translation into English, but we could use "it turns out" as like a lexical things. So it turns out I can live without you. This may be like after a bad breakup or so. You thought that you were completely dependent on this person disappeared, but you survive. And it says, oh, it turns out I could live without you. It's a sudden realization that came. Also here, mogaimui ulam ulmash, what kind of person I am, what kind of, you realize what kind of person you are. I didn't look at or what kind of person you became. I couldn't look at the extended context here, so I'm not sure if this is like a positive or a negative thing. Both sound plausible to me. Like you discover some dark side to yourself that you didn't know was there, or you discover some capabilities that you didn't know were there. But either way, it's not what you expected. So that's what it means if we have especially the first person in this compound past tense too. It is comparative, but like as the numbers show, it is still comparatively rare. And as a result of this, some teaching materials of Mari will say that the compound past tense too doesn't have forms in the first person singular. But this is a kind of like a prescriptivist rule that if you look at the corpus, you will quickly discover it just simply isn't true. As a result, though, of some of the reference materials making the statement, our own textbook is a bit confusing on this front, and we need to fix it and make it more consistent.
Jeremy, I have a
Yep.
question, if I may interrupt you.
Yes.
So if I understand it correctly, compound past tense can actually be used not only for past, but also for expressing things on other temporal levels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, because here when I'm like translating this, it's like, it turns out I could live without you. It turns out I can live without you. The dividing line between these two statements is a fairly fine one in English, because the focus is on this realization that happened at some point in the past. Also here, like, what turns out what kind of person I became or am. It's also kind of a tricky dividing line. Basically, I would say that you will have a hard time making these distinctions in context often. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is in any way helpful.
I was just wondering if this is strictly bound only like to past tense, and it's not because of the evidentiality actually.
I would say that it does still always refer to a past tense, but often the thing that is in the past is not the thing, not necessarily the thing denoted by the verb itself, like the living without you and the being what kind of person, but the realization that that is in the past. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about the compound past tenses? Okay, then let's move on to a new participle, which is the so-called future-necessitive participle that is used to denote things that should happen, that should be done, or whatnot. We're going to look at that in a moment. At some point in the future, either so it is on a very frequent intersection between like future time and one moment. It's on the intersection between future and modality. That's something it should be done or something that will happen. So of course, these are related concepts. This is something similar pertaining to the Finnish present passive present participle tava tava, which can also be something that will be done or something that should be done, depending on context. One or the other reading makes more sense. So the formation is old hat. At this point, we just attach shash to the verbal stem. So it's exactly like with the mash that we did before. Nevertheless, just so we have all formed it at least once, let's try to form these. And I'm going to start so that not everybody gets the same verb again. Ludash, to read, gets then ludshash. And Sonia?
Nalash, nalshash.
Yep. Then Luan?
Tunemash, tunemshash.
Yep. Gopal?
Sorry. Kochkash, Kochshash.
Very good. Then Sandra?
Shinshash, shitshash.
Yep. Then Kelvin?
Lektash, lekshash.
Yep. And Reka?
Vozash, vozashash.
Vozashash? Yep. Sonia?
Purash, purashash.
Yep. Luan?
Ilash, ilishash.
Yep. Gopal?
Kelshash, Kelshash.
Yep. Mari certainly does like its sh. And then Sandra?
Kayash, kayashash.
Yep. Great. So the formation.
I have a question.
Yep.
Because how often I see haplology, does Kelshash ever become just Kelshash, like in
No.
like fast speech?
No. And here I would say that the haplology is blocked simply by that would make it homonymous with the infinitive, Kelshash.
Okay.
So so you don't encounter that. Okay, a little note here. So in other dialects of Mari, you attach another suffix is attached to this ending, which is luk, which means that many varieties of Mari have a participle ending, which is literally shashluk. So that together with the plural ending vlak, especially for Czech speakers, makes Mari morphology some of the coolest morphology on the planet. So as regards the usage of shash, I was intentionally fuzzy when talking about like its meaning, because there is something that sets the shash now off from the me and she participles we have looked at, the active passive one, the passive active ones, and that is that shash is neutral as regards voice. It can be either active or passive depending on what makes more sense in context. So we can have, for example, ishte shash pasha. So here it's a passive reading, the work that must be done. But we can then also have like shushash kechalashte, in the days that are to come. So where it would be active then. Shu, the stem is like to arrive. So shushash is something that will arrive, something that should arrive soon. Kecha, the day. La are the short plural suffix that we had, and initiative, in the days to come. And I took this because this is going to happen. We're going to have this in the television clip in chapter 21, where there's some talk of what will happen in the next few days. And that's shushash kechalashte. Okay, so we have here passive, active, no problem. Even when like looking at one and the same participle, depending on the context, it will be relativizing different elements. We can have kayashash kwarno, the road which one will go, the road which one must go, the road in front of you, for example. But you can also have a marlan kayashash uder. Marlan kayash, like to go to the man. That's a set phrase for a girl to marry. So this is like a girl who will marry soon, or who has to get married soon. Hopefully the first, but likely also the latter. So here it is then active. We can also encounter it in combination with postpositions, like this. This example, I found this on the website of a Mari lawyer who has a bilingual website, Russian and Mari, and he talks about questions pertaining to the necessity to go to work or something like that. And it's like pashash, kayashash, pashash, to work, kayashash, go, nergen, about yodish. So question about having to go to work. So we can also use this as the reference word of a postposition, like with the passive participle, which we were looking at. And we can also use it in combination with to be, to express a necessity to do something. Mui kaishash ulam, I must go. It is obligatory for me to go. This last point we are going to look at in a systematic fashion in a few chapters. So, but the basic thing to remember here is that so one should be prepared for a pretty wide functional range when it comes to shash. It always means that something is in the future or something is desirable, necessary, or so. But syntactically, it's pretty flexible. Shashlikim kochashlik, yeah. Or like in some varieties of Mari, you would have like a kochashlik shashlik, is a shashlik that must be eaten. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions pertaining to the future-necessitive participle? Okay, then let's go on to the last grammar point for today, which is the usage of the dative suffix lan with the infinitive. This is again something subject to dialectal variation within Mari. Not all dialects of Mari do this, but literary meta Mari does. And in my opinion, I think that this is a Kipchak Turkic influence, like Tatar. It represents Tatar structures, and the varieties of Mari towards the west, like Hill Mari, that don't have a strong Tatar influence, they just don't show this pattern in the same extent. And that is that we can attach this lan, the dative ending, which in Mari, as in all languages of the Volga-Kama region, denotes also has a final meaning, like the meaning of a purpose. Like if you're saying that you're going to the well to get water, you would say Vütlan kayem, like I'm going to the water, I'm going for the water, I'm going to fetch the water. It's the purpose of my action. And in this function of denoting the purpose or whatnot, you can attach it to the infinitive. So you can say like diplomum na lash lan, in order to get a diploma, nul vich I tunem man, one must study for 4 to 5 years. Moskosh kayashlan, in order to go to Moscow, melam biletem nalash kulesh, to me it is necessary to buy a ticket. I have to buy a ticket to go to Moscow. Yilmem sayin palashlan, in order to know a language properly, shuku tunemash kulesh, one must study a lot. We are going to look at other structures affirming final clauses or clauses denoting necessity in later chapters, because other strategies also use some of the little morphology we don't yet know, like imperative in the third person singular plural. We'll get to that. Okay. Fairly common in most Turkic languages. Yeah, that this is a Turkic strategy that we're looking at. Okay, any grammar questions before we move on to words and word usage? No. Okay, so a few little shorter notes before we get to the text. The first, I would have put this in the grammar, actually. I don't know why it's in word usage, is pertaining to the usage of rak, which we learned as the comparative marker. And a fairly recent innovation in Mari, borrowed from Turkic. There's a lot of, like, there are, like, other Uralic languages in the region don't have a comparative morpheme, like the Mordvin languages. They just they express comparison in a spatial sense. Like if you want to say that Ichan is taller than Anush in let's say Erzer, you would say Ichan is tall from Anush, and then you don't need a comparative morpheme. So we can use it in an actual comparative sense. Like if we can say, this is an example I took from a newspaper text, when you're talking about people who are older than 18. So it's lat kandash, iyash, dech, kugurak. So bigger than 18 years, so older than 18 years. And then igotan vlak. Igot is like the age with an age. And then vlak, so people who are older than 18 or so. So in here, this is like really a comparison, like bigger than blah, 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 older than blah, blah, blah. As is, as this rak, the counterparts in Turkic languages also do this. This suffix also often has an attenuative meaning or so. It is used to say that something is a bit XYZ. Like if we say easy rak kapan, so kap is a body, kapan is with a body. So easy kapan would be with a small body. And if you say easy rak kapan, it's like not with a smaller body, but it's like a little bit small or so. There are isolated examples also, like where in German, the German comparative can also have this attenuative meaning, like especially the form älter. Like if you say eine ältere Dame, like an older woman or so. Yeah, does it work in English? I'm not entirely sure.
I think elderly
works for me. That's the default way I'd express that, actually. Saying old would be extremely rude. Yeah. So, okay, so great to know. I wasn't sure then if this was my German, the
the burden of being a bilingual, of having some influence, and you're not sure from what language it comes from. But so if you're like saying an old woman, that's pretty rude. But if you say like an older woman, or like in German, eine ältere Dame, it's like somebody who is a bit old or so. You're not denoting a comparison when you say an older woman. You're not saying older than whom or whatnot. Yeah, and sometimes it's really hard to put your finger on what exactly it means. Like if we have like kuzerak from kuze, how, don't ask me what it does. It's some kind of emphatic meaning of some sort. Sorry, I have the sun in my face. I'm going to have to work on the lights. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Yeah. So the next point, this is fairly straightforward, nothing typological. Yeah.
Jeremy, sorry, I have a question related to this rak problem.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, isn't it something like the enclitic, what it is in English? Like in Finnish, you get these pa, for example, on pa. Jotain. So it's a kind of like, there is no meaning, but it's a kind of like emphatic or like expressing your attitude. So I wonder if this could be used in a similar way. And also, like, I wonder, because I'm not sure if it's possible to get this information from COPIUS, like if there is anything like dialectical about it, or like formal, informal.
I think it is similar to the Finnish pa, but my sense is the Finnish pa is a bit more productive in this meaning. That like this kuzerak, I would just learn this like as an individual lexical item. I do think it is just a bit more emphatic in a way. And so I would say like it's always it's easier for me to deal with emphatic particles or whatnot in German, because German has a wider range. But I'd say like if you say kuze pasha, like pasha it's work, but it's also matter. So it's like Russian diela also. So it's like if I ask kuze pasha, it's like how are things or so, or how is the matter. But if I say kuze rak pasha, it's like in German it would be the difference is between like wie geht's and wie geht es denn, or something like that. So there's like a very fine, like emphatic something there that, oh God, don't ask me what it is. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, the next thing is a bit more straightforward, and that is that onchıç and gıç, even though we originally met these as spatial references, they can also be used as temporal in a temporal sense. So we can have kum keçe onchıç is 3 days ago, and kum keçe gıç is in 3 days or after 3 days. Yeah. Good. So koltаш, to send, we in the textbook say something that actually that's not technically 100% accurate. That's that we say that it is the original meaning of this word is to send. That's probably the original meaning of the word is more like to let something go. Like if you have a raft and you let it float down the river, that would be koltаш, just letting it go down the river. And from that, this descending was abstracted from that, because I mean the Maris have been using rafts longer than there has been a postal service. For its functional usage as an spectral auxiliary, it doesn't really matter. The sending, because sending and letting a raft away, it's fairly, let's say the Aktionsart structuring of the event is fairly similar. You have a thing, it's in your hand, you do the action and the thing is gone, be it a raft or be it a letter. So the literal meaning is, yeah, Today, the dominant meaning would be to send. I sent a letter. Who sent you? So it can be sending a letter, but it can also be like sending a person somewhere. But it is also used as a spectral auxiliary denoting something what usually denoted by the German term Aktionsart, also in English, modifying the internal structuring of an action. And for example, if we have things like koltаш, and like in these auxiliary constructions, it is always a converb in n followed by then this verb. If we have something like koltаш, drinking send, here this is like a perfective marker, like just like with sending, like when you have your letter, you throw it in the post box, it's gone. If you are drinking, if you're downing a shot glass and you drink it all in one go, before you have the thing in your hand, you do the action, it's gone. Just like this, the internal structuring of the event is transferred over when you have this pairing, then koltаш. Likewise, koltаш, swallowing send, is like just to swallow down, to swallow something completely until it is gone. The functional meaning of it is a bit wider though, because this is one set of words where it looks like this. There are other ones though where it is more, it's inquisitive or ingressive, depending on which nomenclature you are using, which means to denote that you start an action. And this is, again, you can abstract it from, if you imagine like now more like a raft, letting a raft go down the river. It is one action that you do to get the ball rolling for an activity. You let go of the raft once and it goes down the river, and then it goes on a long journey that is no longer under your control. And often you will have pairings with koltаш where you have this kind of Aktionsart transfer to it. Like if you have coolish and koltаш, running send, it just means you start running. You get into this action of running. It denotes this initial phase of the action of running. Likewise, shorten koltаш, crying send, it's just to break out in tears, to start crying or whatnot. It is just like the initial starting of this action. Okay, yeah, I promise that when we get to that we'll look at the individual auxiliaries. The question if it is cognate to Hungarian küld, this is something that a matter of long debate, and there was supposedly a long, decades-long argument about this between Károly Rédai, the professor at the University of Vienna, and Gábor Berecki about this, because with küld and kolt, it looks so similar that it seems plausible, but the vowel is wrong in Hungarian. You would expect a back vowel somewhere. And you can say, okay, maybe the vowel shifted at some recent form, and that maybe a historical form kult became kult in recent history. But the problem is that if it had historically been kult, then it would have in Hungarian gone through the sound shift of k to h to h, and it would be more like huld today than kult. So that's why then Rédai found it completely implausible for these to be cognates, whereas Berecki was of the opinion that couldn't it have been that it was huld and that it was huld and it that it was kult and that it shifted to kult before this sound law came into effect, by which k became h in Hungarian. So it remains a dubious etymology, let's put it like that. That it looks so similar that you would expect it, but there are these problems for which no explanation has been found. Okay. Right. So тореш as against, this can be either an adverb, like I'm against it. It's often in used as a counterpart to, like in Russian, if you say I'm against it, you'd say я против. then you'd in Mari you'd say muy тореш olam, or Russian or German, ich bin dagegen, I'm against it. You don't even have to say what it is in this context. It can be used as an adjective, like it could be like a тореш mut, is like an against word, is a word like a counter argument or something like that. But it is also quite commonly used as a postposition. If it is used as a postposition, one has to be conscientious of its government. It likes the dative. So if we have like ik manier Jodishlan was mutem puash, ik manier Jodish, a few questions, then to this the dative, to a few questions, was mutem, an answer, puash, to give, toresh, ogadali. So are you not against giving a few answers to the questions? Okay, so here it is then with just the bare infinitive. But it can also be like, it can also be with the dative form. So it can be the infinitive without the dative. Sorry, that was a bit unclear. But if we use the passive participle, for example, which we could do too, then we need to have the dative ending. We are against the making of this house in our courtyard. I'm not against this in the dative. They are not against this plan with the dative. Another thing we are seeing here, which is not in textbook, but is a bit curious, is that this toresh as a postposition, it has more degrees of freedom than some of the postpositions we've seen before. That we have here planlan, and then we have the subject sneaks in between the reference word of the postposition and the postposition, which in the case of like gütch or so, this would not be possible. Like you could say, you could not say like Moscow muy gütch tolam or something like that. Categorically not permissible. And as a factor of this, like often Russian scholars would make a distinction here between proper postpositions like gütch and this one they would more call a relational noun. That they say, like, if you look at, like, oftentimes postpositions are grammaticalized from nominal elements, but they then sort of establish a spectrum starting from like where you have relational nouns that show a lower degree of grammaticalization, and as an effect of that also have more degrees of freedom in syntax. And then proper postpositions have to like be more, they have then a more intimate connection with the reference word to which they're connected. Okay. So just a quick note, a construction to learn. So we already know we have lияш. We've already had lияш as with an infinitive in an impersonal construction, like shubshash liesh, shubshash okli. One can smoke, it is allowed to smoke. Shubshash okli, it is not allowed to smoke. Always in the third person singular in this case. We can also, though, use an infinitive combined with lияш in all persons, in where din means like to promise, to decide to do something, to commitment oneself to doing something. Like tudo tolash lie. He, she, they, like literally it is was to come, but it means like he, she, they decide to come, committed themselves to come, promise to come, whatever. Yeah, this example we're gonna have in the text, so let's look at it then. So I think this is the last point before we get to the text, which is putting and placing. There are a lot of words that mean to put or to place in Mari, but that one must attempt to distinguish. And my sister produced some drawings for us many years ago to illustrate these differences. I tried myself and it was a catastrophe. So if I say my engerem lukas shogaltem, I put the fishing rod present tense in the corner. Enge lukas shoga. The fishing rod is standing in the corner. So here we have put, and then as a result of it, it is standing there. Why? The reason why we use this shogaltash word for putting to placing is like, this is derived actually from the stem shogash. It's like the path is that we have shogash, to stand, shogalash, and that's like to stand, a transformative, like German would be sich hinstellen, like to go and stand by the tree. And then from that, it is the transitive derivation using the T as a transitivizer that we already looked at today. And that is like to make something stand somewhere. So it is putting, placing something into a standing position and into a standing position only. Like we cannot use shogaltash if something is not standing somewhere. And so a fishing rod, if you imagine a fishing rod and you put it in the corner, it is like really standing upright in the corner. So if we say my knigam ustem bak pistem, I put the book on the table, and I would say kniga ustem balne kia, the book is lying on the table. In English, we make a distinction when we are describing the status in which something is. We just don't make the distinction when we are denoting the act of putting or placing something in it. So here it is, I put the book on the table, and I am laying it on the table. You can in English also say that, we just normally wouldn't. But you are explicitly saying that you're putting it on this position. That if you're putting it in this position, you might use shogaltash or shindash or something else. Usually, they're like, I don't want to say that it is completely clear cut. We also had this form optash, not to be confused with barking. And that is basically pushtash and optash. The difference here is one of Aktionsart. The pushtash is a single action, once putting something there, and optash means putting several things there. It can sometimes, a better translation in English might be to set or to arrange or so. Like if I say my knigam ustem bak optem, it means like putting several times on the table. It implies plurality of the objects. It's not just one book that you're putting on the table, it's several books that you are arranging on the table. So then if we're saying like that the result of this would then have to be kniga vlak ustem balne kiat. Theoretically, you could say my kniga vlakem ustem bak optem, but you wouldn't. Because by using optash, you have already implied the plurality of the books, and Mari doesn't usually use explicit plural suffixes when plurality is already implied. Yeah, so this is the lying position. Then we have my vasem oknash shindem, and this shindem form, this is originally a causative form of shinchash, that it was something like shinjidem or so, and that with time, after spending a lot of time lying out in the sun, that became then shindash. So my vasem oknash shindem, I put the vase in the window, and then vase oknash shincha, the vase is sitting in the window. So this is the sitting position. And then to finish things off, we have my porträtem pildisches sakem, I put a portrait up on the wall. So like I hung it on the wall. Portrait pildisches ketcha, the portrait is hanging on the wall. So this is if something is in a hanging position or so. Yeah. So those are just a lot of words that one should try to keep separate. Are there any questions before we get to the text? Great. So I'm going to, even though it's on the slides, I'm going to shift over to the Google Docs now so that I can make annotation if it is necessary, because there are some not that trivial examples in here. Okay, here we go. And I have the title is missing. One moment. Not that that's the most critical thing, but okay. So one moment. I'm just doing the sound check if everybody hears the recording now. Here, great. So the title is what like worries a business leader, like the head of an enterprise. So ozanlık is just like an enterprise, a company establishment or something like that. And vuilatische is the boss, a leader or something like that. And toegeslagen is like too upset, but like in a not in a dramatic sense of making somebody like really giving somebody a hard time, but more just like give worry to somebody. Like German beunruhigen is a good or beschäftigen would be something sort of in that domain. Little note about this text. So this text was originally published in the first version of this textbook, which came out in 1990. And so it's talking about all the problems that and in the original version, it's called kolchos more toegeslagen. So what worries the head of the kolchos? We changed it afterwards. I ended up kind of regretting it because you still have a lot of businesses that are called kolchos in modern Russia too. It's not a term that completely disappeared with the end of communism in Russia. Yeah, what I think I'm saying that you don't quite trust Ivan is like he's talking about how all we'll get to that, but talking about how all the roads to the Mari villages have been paved, and I have been to Mari villages. I was to Mari villages 25 years after this was written. They're not all paved, but yeah, but it is like as a historical relic, it is kind of like it's interesting because he's talking about all the hardships that our economic model has had, but now we have introduced the fixes and everything is going to go on smoothly. Yeah, and if you keep in mind the historical context of what happened in Russia after 1990, yeah. But it is at the same time, it is kind of amusing how we didn't actually have to change that much about this text to make it feel appropriate in the present day and age. Yeah, okay, so the first sentence will go to Sonia, and since there's a lot of vocabulary in this and a lot of difficult sentences, everybody can always ask for help, but I think the first sentence will go smoothly. Let's see.
Salam liže Ivan Petrovich.
Yeah.
I think it was quite easy.
Yeah.
So like, good day or hello, Ivan Petrovich.
Yep. Very good. Then Luan.
Мы Мариэл газетен журналистша Сапаев Сергей Николаевич улам.
I am Sabayev Sergei Nikolaevich, the journalist of the newspaper Mariel.
Unless I'm mistaken, this is the last time our last rodeo with Sergei. That I don't think he appears anymore in the textbook after this. Oh, sorry for the spoiler and sorry for the heartbreak with no warning. Okay, go by.
Тендан озанлыкта да пашадан эрген газетыш возаш сомыл дене толынам.
So I've come to write about your like business and work in the newspaper. So like I've come with that as my business, like somal dene.
Exactly. So somal is like here it's to be understood like a task, a purpose, or so like with this intention, with this purpose, I came. Okay, then Sandra.
Икмыняр йодышлан вашмутым пуаш тореш огыдали?
Are you opposed? No, wait. It's like you are not supposed to answering some questions.
Yeah, you're not opposed to answering some questions, are you? Kind of like, yeah. Okay, then Kelvin.
Уилыш лӱман озанлыкым те шукерте огыл вуйлатеда.
U ilish luman ozalkam te shukerte ogel volate da. What is shukerte?
Shukerte would be like long ago or so, but it's in shukerte ogel.
Oh, so recently.
Yeah. Not long in this context, then yeah.
So you are worried.
Not worried.
Or oh, you lead. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
You're in charge, or you have been running the business named Uilish New Life recently.
Yep. So this Ivan is fairly new to the job. Probably came in through perestroika in perestroika times in the original context. Then Reka. Sorry, I forgot to play.
Кузерак варате кӱчык жапыште лушкыдо озанлыкым йол ӱмбаке шогалтен кертында?
So how were you able to put back the farm on its feet in such a little time?
Yeah.
More or less?
Yeah, exactly. So a weak enterprise, how could you in a short time, küçük japışte, stand it back, yol imbake onto its feet? Okay. Then Sonia.
Почеш кодшо озанлыкым йол ӱмбаке шогалташ куштылго огыл.
At the beginning of the sentence does not make much sense to me. Почеш кодшо, it's like after last, maybe in the end or something like that. I don't know how to translate it properly.
It's,
and then
yeah, it's kodash is like to stay.
Yeah.
And so it's staying or having stayed. And then počeš, it's like, I mean, it's literally afterwards, but like as a phrase, počeš kocho is like having stayed behind. So
okay,
it's like not timely or so, like having stayed, like this stuff is tricky to translate, but it's like basically not modern is what it meant. Stayed behind, left behind. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I will just take a minute. Yeah, it was not, or it's not easy to put the enterprise back on its feet.
Yeah, not up to date. Yeah, that would work. Okay, then Luan.
Ончыч ме озанлыкым вияҥдыме да пашаш у йӧным пуртымо нерген йодышым терген налынна.
Okay, this is literally a sentence that I use in my introduction to linguistics course, just to show how SOV syntax, what the implications of SOV syntax are. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, it would be nice if I would still remember this exact lecture. Wait, so at first, we examined or checked or something with no.
Okay, let's look at this one element for element. So I'll mark in color everything that we have already translated. So at first, you got that. At first, you got that too. Examined with a spectral or like auto-benefactive even, like we examine for ourselves.
Oh wait, so it's examined the question and then the question about.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so the question about the yes, like making strong of the enterprise and bringing a new method into the work or something.
No, that was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Let's try it again, element for element, and I'll do this now. So ončıč at the very first, we tergenalana examined. We examined, what did we examine? We examined a question. A question about what? About pultimo, the introduction. So this is like to bring in. Bringing in the introduction of what? Of methods. What kind of methods? New methods. Where do you introduce the new methods? Into work. And then this is now coordinated. And also, and this is in like this, since it's a passive participle, this is still the again about. We're still talking about another thing that is about. So we examined a question about about viangdeme, the strengthening. The strengthening of what? Ozanlık, the enterprise. So if I want to translate this from Mari into English, I start at the beginning of the sentence and I go, and I mean, Luan did this in exactly the right way. You start reading it till you get to the subject. And once you get to the subject, you jump to the end, you find your verb and you read backwards and translate those element for element into English. And I mean, the difference that we see here, just in the general structuring of sentences, you can see this, for example, in syntax trees, or if you look at tree banks for like English, compare English with Tamil or whatnot, you'll see that the English syntax trees, they all will grow down to the right, which means that, and then as a correspondingly, syntacticians call English a right branching language, whereas the Tamil language trees will mostly grow towards the left because it's a left branching language, and Mari is very much here in the left branching scene. So yeah, this is what I mentioned, I think, in the first lesson already, that's saying that subject, object, verb, it's like it means a lot more than just where you put the object. It has implications on the syntax that we will really get to appreciate in chapter 19. I think I said then already. Welcome to chapter 19. Okay, but that was, I think, I hope it's more or less transparent what we did here, even if it is not necessarily trivial. So we can continue, and next up is Gopal. And okay, there are going to be a lot of terms here where I can give you like literal translations of what they mean, but I can't really tell you like what they mean, because I'm not really like Soviet economic policies and whatnot are not really my strong point. So yeah.
I didn't play the audio yet.
Oh, sorry. Right, I forgot.
Пашам ыштымаште подряд да коопераций йӧным кумдан шарен колташ лийна.
Okay, so pasham ashtamashte, so at like doing the work.
Yep.
Podryad, this is contract, I think.
Yep.
I just checked. Yeah, contract and like cooperative methods. What is kumdan?
Widely. So kumda is wide, and this is in the instructive form as an adverb, widely.
Okay, so we spread, like we widely, like we made wide the work doing contracts and like cooperative methods.
Yeah. Literally, it's more like we decided to do it. So we have two things here. We have then sharen koltash and a spectral converb construction, like to start spreading it around. And then we have this infinitive together with lияш in the first person plural, but in the second past tense. And this is this thing that we had in the word and word usage. Lияш plus infinitive can be like to decide, to commit oneself to something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just a detail. Otherwise, it was very good. And then Sandra.
Again, I think you still want to play the...
Sorry, I keep forgetting it today.
Кучылтмо уюн мыланна ял озанлык лектышым кугемдаш полшен.
Okay. So Pulshen is probably Pulshash to help.
Yeah.
So it helped.
Yeah. And what is it? What is the subject?
The use of new methods.
Or more like the used new methods.
Okay. The used new the new methods applied helped us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like a country enterprise, so I guess of course yours.
Yeah. Well, like Yal Ozanlık is agriculture, but let's do the Finno-Ugric thing and read backwards. It helped us.
Cool. Wait, Kurimdash was make bigger.
Yep, to embiggen or to grow.
Okay, it helped us to grow. I'm not really sure what to do with lektisch.
Okay, so lektisch,
I mean, it's to go, to leave, to.
Yes, but it's a noun derived from lekta, from this. So we have lektash, to go, to leave, but also to come up, to rise. And lektisch is then just the output, the result, or so.
Okay. To make the to. Is it maybe also like the output as in the harvest?
Yes.
Okay, so it helped the applied new methods helped us to make the outputs of agriculture bigger.
Exactly. So that was very good. Could you say using the new method helped us to increase the agricultural output or something like that? Yeah, that would also work as a translation. Yeah. Okay, then yeah, I'll play it and then it's Kelvin.
Пытартыш ийлаште кресаньык-влак мландылан оза улмыштым монденыт, садлан паша кумылышт волен.
Okay, some more intensely Finno-Ugric syntax.
All right. Пытартыш ийлаште кресаньык-влак мландылан оза улмыштым монденыт, садлан паша кумылышт волен. So in the last years, Kresanyik, I want to say peasants, but it's probably not correct in the modern context.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tricky thing that like that's what you find in the dictionary is Kristianin. It's like from Russian Kristianin, which is peasant. But of course, like peasant in English has a different range than that in Russian. And like often you would want to just translate it as farmer. But the thing is that like there is actually the word fermer in Russian, like from English, which implies that you own the land. And of course, in a kolkhoz system, you don't own the land. And that's then why in a Russian context, they keep on using the peasant word, basically. And but I think for our context, we can just use farmer and realize that we are not implying the land ownership just simply because constantly talking about the peasants has some connotations.
Yeah. Okay, so in the last years, farmers, farm hands, perhaps we could say.
Yeah, that would work.
Have said.
Not said.
Or have.
No, mondash is.
Is it ask?
No, it's forget.
Okay.
Yeah, for those of us that are over a certain age and are in Austria, there used to be a supermarket chain in Austria, Mondo, which has long disappeared, which was in the Mari imperative form, forget. And falling into this usual pattern that for some reason, random words and nonsense words very often mean something in Mari. But okay, back to the translation. So in the
I
last.
was getting confused because of Hungarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have farmers, farm hands have forgotten. Well, mlandalan is to the land.
Yeah.
In the dative. Oza, I looked it up, is a owner or master of sorts. Yeah. So they've forgotten their mastery of the land, perhaps?
That's exactly it. So it's ul, me, stim. So ul, to be, passive participle. but now we're using the passive participle as a verbal noun to put it in a slot that would otherwise be used for a noun. And then we have possessive suffix, third person plural, and accusative. So they have forgotten that they are the masters of the land. And I mean, this is now describing a real problem that you had in communist societies, that of course, like when people don't own the land, when they're just working in accordance to the 5-year plan, the motivation really wasn't quite what had been hoped. Okay.
Sadlan Pasha Kumalish Volen. Their desire, for work in the garden had decreased.
It's not right, but it's great, because
that's not Russian sad then.
It's not Russian sad. No, okay. It's the old demonstrative stem sade, like that.
Okay.
So sadlan is just
so the desire to do that sort of work then.
Yeah, and thus their working desire has fell. Yeah. Okay, but that was really great, because I mean it could be to the garden. Yeah. Okay, then Reka. Sorry, I keep forgetting to play today. I'll play it.
So regarding this issue, did you have a problem, or did you have problems because of this?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, in this regard or so. Okay, then Sonia is up next, and maybe oh boy, no, is there a typo there? Where Kevin, where is the typo?
So I'm just saying that probleme, shouldn't that probleme have a possessive suffix?
Yes and no. That, like, the prescriptive sources on Mari will basically say that you have to have it. Often enough you don't, and especially if it is like in a real existential meaning, because it's like you're not, like, it is in a way it is a possessive construction, like do you have problems, but it's more like, it's not like do you own the problems, but more like do these problems exist at yours or so. So it seems like we have in these cases, we asked our native speakers if they like it like this, they preferred it like this in this case. Okay, so God, I have to decide now. Sonia either gets one tiny little example sentence or one monster, but otherwise I'd have to give Luan another monster.
I think I will manage both.
You manage both, so I'll give you 2 sentences. Okay.
Да, тиде чын. Ожно ыштышаш пашам кунам да мыняр куралаш, могай пырчым ӱдаш, мо дене мландым ӱяҥдаш, мыняр вуй вольыкым ашнаш да молымат кӱшыч ончыктен пуат ыле. Кресаньык шке...
Yeah.
Maybe Luan can help me if I get stuck.
Yep.
So the first one, it's quite easy. I would say yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the longer one, like before.
I would do this in 2 parts now, because it's like everything, this whole part here is like a side thought.
Okay.
And maybe if you first translate like the matrix that it's in, and then the little thing in between.
So like before or a long time ago, the work,
like in the old days.
Okay, the work had to be done.
Well, yes and no. I'm gonna wait. Let's copy this whole thing. And like, so if we take this whole side thought out, this is still a perfectly grammatical sentence. The translation you gave, this would have been very good if this had been a predicative, if it has been predicative usage. But here we have as an attribute, we're defining what kind of work. So in the old days, the work, or maybe it was actually right, maybe I misheard you, the work that had to be done, like the work.
I said it because there is this shush ending. So
sorry, I misunderstood you. You had it right.
I should have been more clear.
No problem.
And then there is this past compound past tense one.
Yeah.
Onçıktan puat, it's like look at something or perceived from different perspectives or whatever that was. I know it was
Careful.
to specify. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you're on the right track with seeing and looking, because that's what onçıç means. But this is onçıktaş is the causative derivation from that, to make somebody see something. So that means to give, to show, to specify, or so.
So I would say, or if I think it's right, the meaning of the sentence is that, like in the past, the work that should have, or that was to be done, was specified from somewhere. So someone else told you what to, what's to be done.
Specifically, küçük means
from somewhere.
From above.
From above, okay.
Yeah. So it's like the authorities would tell you.
Yeah, when we were talking about a skylark, it was the küçük.
Exactly. And so then this onçıktan puat is like they gave. This is a so-called benefactive construction. It's like they're showing us to the people or so. Okay, and then we had all the stuff that we skipped in the middle, and that's like just specifying what was shown from above.
When and how much to plow.
Yep.
What seeds to plant. What to use as a fertilizer for the land.
Yep.
How many pieces of cattle to look after, and I have no idea what molemat. It's like, and so on, and similar, and in this way.
Yeah, it's molo is other or so, and molem is then accusative, and then it's the at is this additive particle, and also others and other, so that then means etc. Okay, so it's a bit tricky, but not that bad, I'd say.
Thank you for your help.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, here we go. Okay, and then now Luan gets the next one.
Чемюдаш, модиным ландым йоҥдаш, мыняр вуйвольыкым ашнаш да молымат кӱшыч ончыктен пуат ыле. Кресаньык шке вуя шонымыжым монден.
Okay.
Wait, the farmers forgot so is schkevoa, is it like an adjective or an adverb?
It's an adverb. This is it's like what it literally is. Oh God, where am I? It's like ske is own, and then vui is head, and vuya is like this a as an adverbial formant. We'll encounter it. It's like forms adverbs with something. It's often connected to body parts, like and the such. So shkevuya would be an adverb meaning with one's own head, literally, and that just then often means independently.
Okay, so it's the farmers forgot to like think independently.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then Gopal gets the next one.
Ме озанлык ыштена. У система почеш пашам ыштыме дене кресаньыкым мланде деке пӧртылтышна.
So in our business, like our enterprise, we have returned, or like, taken farmers back to the land by like having them work under the new system.
Exactly. Okay, then it's Sandra for the next one.
Шуко озанлыкыште ял гыч каймылан кӧра пашаеҥ огеш сите.
Okay. Okay, so Sita is Ogesh Sita is was not enough. Is not enough. And wait, Shuko was many, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so I didn't get this far actually when I was working through the text, because I was too confused by all the syntax before, so that's why I'm kind of struggling now.
Should I give you words, or do you want to skip?
Can you tell me what kura was again?
Okay, kura is because as a postposition. So it's like because of whatever is before it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. We had already, you got the verb right. It does not suffice. And spoiler, the subject is right before it. Pasha Yeng, Ogesh.
Yeah, it's worker. Yeah, that I know.
So workers don't.
What?
Yeah, workers don't suffice. And you said many.
But is Shuko, does Shuko go with Pasha Yeng?
No. Shuko goes with Ozan Likishte.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's in the enterprise.
Yeah, in many enterprises.
In many enterprises, there are not enough workers because they leave the countryside, basically.
Exactly. That's it. So that was very good, because of the leaving of the countryside, basically. Okay, then Kelvin gets a comparatively easy one, I think.
Tendaan ozanlıkışta kuzirak.
Atiten ozanlık işte kuzerak, and what's it like in your company?
Yep. Then Reka.
Ожно мемнан денат паша еҥ ситен огыл.
So before we didn't have enough workers either.
Now Sonia gets a sentence that has, again, some technical terms that I can't claim to fully understand, but we'll see.
Кызыт арендыш куснымо дене паша вийым кучылтмо шотышто проблема лектын.
Okay, see you, Gopal. See you next week.
Yeah. Like nowadays or now, arenders, is it meant like rent or like the pay the people get?
I think it is rent in the same way that like that the farmers can like rent specific lots or so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think this arenders is used in an attributive way. So like there has been a shift or change in rents.
I think it's more like as an abstract concept. It's denoting not a specific rent, but like the whole system of using the rental system or so.
So with the changes or with the use of the rental system, the workforce, like the problems regarding the workforce. And now I wonder, is it meant that like these problems have gone or they have increased?
They have come up. They
have come up, yeah.
Now with the move to a rental system, problems have arisen regarding the usage of workforce.
Okay.
Like that. Rika is also. Okay, see you, Rika. Yeah. Sonia, you were going to ask something?
It's a kind of relief to know that I won't probably ever get on the level to be speaking about things like that. So I don't worry about like understanding or not understanding the rental system in Mari.
Yeah. Okay. So then Luan, the next one.
Лан ончыч мланде паша витле гыч шымле марте еҥ шуктен гын, ынде тиде пашам коло еҥ ышта.
For example, so onchыч is at first or not?
Yeah, or earlier or so.
Earlier, okay. So earlier 50 to 70 people wait, I forgot again. So for example, if earlier 50 to 70 people like Shukdash was to carry out or something, carried out the land work. Now 20 people do this work.
Right, very good. So then Sandra gets the next one. One moment.
Тыгак вольык ончышо-влакат утеныт.
I'm not sure what tenet is.
To become superfluous.
Yeah, like in the same way. The animal races become superfluous.
Yeah, became superfluous. Yeah, it's like basically you streamline the economic system and suddenly you don't know what to do with the people. Yeah. Okay. Kelvin, can you still do one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Нунылан пашам ситарыман.
Кушто нунылан пашам муаш?
Sorry, I got.
Коло еҥ ышта. Тыгак вольык ончышо-влакат утеныт. Ынде нунылан пашам ситарыман.
Тыгак вольык ончышо-влакат утеныт.
And the one after that, sorry.
So the inde one.
Yeah.
Inde nunallan pasham sitaraman. So it is necessary to procure work for them.
Exactly. Okay, then see if you have to leave.
See you guys next week.
Yep. Okay, then we're getting closer to the end. Let's still finish this if we manage. Yeah, then Sonia.
Кушто нунылан пашам муаш шонеда?
Where do you think they can find work, like these superfluous
Yes,
workers?
Almost the only thing that was not shoneda. What person is that?
Do you want? It's like it's second plural, and it's it's shonash.
It's shonash, yes. So it's not desiderative in spite of the ne.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you think to find work for them? Okay, then.
Okay, so where do you think they can? So where do you think you can find work for them?
Exactly.
Directed.
Okay, then that is correct. Then Luan.
Мемнан ик йӧн гына подсобный озанлык.
We with our only method is a subsidiary enterprise.
Yes, we have only one method: subsidiary household plots cultivated for subsistence. That Timothy Rees and we put in a lot of work into finding what this подсобное хозяйство in Russian, what it actually is. But yeah, can't offer more than what we have in the textbook. Okay, see you, Mikke. Then Sandra.
Но тудо кызыт марте мемнан дене пеш начарын вияҥын.
But yeah, okay. And then this is something strengthening again.
Yeah, but
he. I mean, I'm not sure whom this, what this tudo is referring to actually.
So tudo is originally actually a demonstrative pronoun, and here it is being used as that. So that.
But that strengthened until now. Very badly, very poorly.
Yes, very poorly. That has developed very poorly until now. Memnandene.
With us, but probably for us.
For us. It's like German bei uns, yeah. Exactly. Okay, then we're coming into gender roles. Sonja?
Поснак ӱдыр-влаклан паша вер шагал.
I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. Especially like for women or for girls, the number of workplaces is scarce, or there is a limited number of places.
There are a few workplaces. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, then Luan?
Садлан огыл мо, мемнан дене тачысе кечылан шымле наре качымарий уло, а ӱдыр-влакым парня денат шотлен лекташ лиеш.
Okay, this is tricky, this sentence. So ask if something is tricky, if not quite clear.
Okay. Therefore, wait.
So this Sadlan Ogelmo, it's like we asked them for this, and it's sort of like not for nothing, or sort of like that. It's like nicht einfach nur so or so.
Okay.
So
okay, I don't get it. Like everything. I don't know where to start.
Yeah. So let's see. We can split it definitely into two. We can first let's try up to Ulo. Let's see if this part. And in the Southern Ogelmo, it's like, isn't it so? Not for nothing. And then we have Memnandene with us, like bei uns. Tachise Kechelan to the present day, so for the present day at now. Shimle Nare Kache Mari, so some 70 or so young men. So like it's not just, what do we say for Sadlan Ogelmo in here? Do we say anything? We should. Boy, we don't. So not just so. At us, we have, for the present day, 70 or so young men, but and then comes the second part.
So, wait, I forgot what Shotland lektash.
Yes, so Shotlash is to count. And Shotlenlektash is in this spectral thing, like to count to the end, like abzählen or so.
So we decided.
No, now
not.
This is confusing. This is the other lияш construction. One thing, it is possible.
So wait. So it's possible to count the girls with like fingers.
Exactly, that's it. So like we have like 70 men, but the girls you can count off your fingers. Yeah.
So it's mostly the women leaving the countryside.
Yeah, Or
Okay, so
is that, or they're
typical.
just managing to employ more men or so? I can only speculate. Okay, Sonia. One moment.
Теве чоҥалтше кок пачашан пӧртыштӧ ургем ургымо цехым почына.
Technically, it would have been my turn, by the way.
Oh. Sorry. Yes, Sandra.
Which doesn't make me more prepared, but
Okay.
so Pochina looks like something with opening.
We are opening.
Teve is one of these little things that I keep forgetting.
Like what also. So look what we're doing.
So we are opening. Okay, Zechem. Looks German, by the way.
Yeah, no, Zech is like a workshop or so. Like a
Okay, so we opened a workshop.
we are opening a workshop.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looked. We are opening a workshop. Yeah, Urgash.
Yeah, this is a whole thing. Burgem is clothing, and Urgash is to sew. So Burgem Urgemotzech would be.
So we're opening a sewing workshop, basically, for clothes.
Yep. Where are we opening it?
Yeah, in two. Not sure what Pachashan is.
Pachash is a story, a floor.
And two-storied houses.
In a two-storied house.
Oh yeah. That's something with building, but
exactly. Yeah.
That still have to be built now.
Yeah, like that is being built.
Oh, okay.
So it is an active participle of a passive derivation. So it's
okay,
to build.
So we are opening a clothing sewing workshop in a two-story house that is being built.
Very good. Perfect. Okay, now it's actually Sonia's turn.
Калыкым изи ял проблема чот тургыжландара.
I just wonder how to translate. So the subject is problema. So like, or no, kalak.
No, kalak is an object
Problema.
here. Problema is right.
So okay, so something like other problems, or there are big problems to worry the people in a small village. Are there? Yeah.
No, the segmenting is a bit different. Easy-Jahr Probleme is all one constituent. And what would Easy-Jahr Probleme? What
problems of a small village, of living in a small village.
Yeah, the small village problems.
Worry nowadays the people.
Worry the people. So like the social problems of a little village. The little village problems are heavily worrying the people. Okay, and then Luan gets the second part of it. Wait, one moment. I'll be right back. Sorry, it was my brother, and I wanted to ask if it's an emergency, because he's also been texting me on WhatsApp, and I have not had a chance to look. Okay, but now it was Luan's turn. One moment.
Кызыт калыкым изи ял проблема чот тургыжландара. Тендан озанлыкыште изи ялым арален кодашлан мо ышталтеш?
So, what is done in your enterprise to save the little village?
Yeah, to preserve the little villages. Very good. Then Sandra.
Мемнан озанлыкыште изи ял проблема уке.
We do not have small village problems in our enterprise.
Of course we don't. Then Sonia.
Ме икмыняр ий ончыч асфальт корно дене чыла ялым ушышна. Кажне ялеш кевытым, клубым чоҥышна. Кажне пӧртыш пуч ден вӱдым, газым пуртышна.
Okay. Several years ago, we brought, or actually we put asphalt or tarmac onto the roads.
Yeah, literally, it's like we joined all the villages
with asphalt roads or tarmac roads. Each in each, or the shops in each village, and the clubs.
Yeah, that's like a social center, also in a Russian context. So
I wonder what's Chongashna. It's the connecting, yeah.
No,
Chongash.
build. It's Chongash is to build. Chongush na is like we build.
Yeah, so that was the connecting which you mentioned a few seconds ago, and like each house got water and gas pipes. So
we brought in water and gas into every house with a pipe.
Okay.
So that people don't have to go and get buckets of water or get gas in canisters and such. Yeah, then it's Luan.
Паша верат ситышын уло.
There are also enough workplaces.
Yep. And then Sandra.
Газым пуртышна. Паша верат ситышын уло.
Вашмутланда пеш кугу тау, Иван Петрович.
Many thanks for your answers, Ivan Petrovich.
Yep. Then Sonia.
Ланда пеш кугу тау, Иван Петрович. Тетла мый тендан жаптам налаш ом тошт.
I don't dare take any more of your time.
Yep, very good. Then Luan gets not the last sentence, but the penultimate one.
Бакыжат чыла шотыштат у сеҥымашке шуаш тыланем. Вескана ужмешке чеверын.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
So for the future, I wish you, or wait.
Yeah.
To shuash is like reach. To reach wait. I don't know what's the problem at the moment. Wait, to reach a new victory.
Yeah.
Concerning everything.
Yeah. So also going forward, I wish you to reach, and victory, Sengamashi can also be accomplishment.
Okay.
So I wish you to reach, I hope you will reach new accomplishments, Chilla Stadt, in all regards. So in whatever you do, everything you do. Great. Then Sandra gets the actual penultimate sentence.
Пуч ден вӱдым, газым пуртышна. Паша вержат ситышын уло.
Вашмутлан и диктанты.
Пуч ден вӱдым, газым пуртышна. Паша вержат ситышын уло.
Вашмутланда пеш кугу тау, Иван Петрович. Тетла мый тендан жаптам налаш ом тошт. Умбакыжат чыла шотыштат у сеҥымашке шуаш тыланем. Вескана ужмешке чеверын.
Чевер.
And until we see each other again, goodbye.
Yep. Okay. Oh, you robbed Sonia of the last sentence. But okay.
Sorry.
So I know that this was quite strenuous, but I think you all did a very good job at actually deciphering these things. And in my opinion, none of the chapter texts to come are quite this exhausting. So thanks to everyone for participating, and we'll continue with the exercises next week. And I'm for now going to stop the recording. Okay, after that fairly lengthy and strenuous text, we're now coming to the comparatively accessible exercises, let's say. So the first one is just the whole question of the formation of the simple past tense too. There's something here that we already discussed in earlier in this chapter. It's kind of confusing, and I need to work on the textbook to make it more uniform. But here we say in all permissible persons. So the question is the first person singular permissible? Where we looked at some contexts where it can be, where we can have like especially mirative readings that something happened that about pertaining to yourself that surprised you. But how often is this going to happen with like plowing a field? Oh, it turns out I plowed the field, or it turns out that I used to plow the field, or so. Yeah, I mean, it takes some strain to come up with that. So let's here for now skip the first person forms, even though they would be hypothetically possible. And the formation is so it's just second, third person, singular, plural. The present tense forms with ulmash afterwards. I'll do the first one. So to kuralat ulmash is like you used to plow, or it turns out you used to plow. And tudo kuralesh ulmash, and then te kuralada ulmash, and nuno kuralet ulmash. So the second one, Valentina, maybe?
Yeah, so te otpale ulmash. So that would mean it turns out you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So what would make sense? Tudo okpale ulmash would make sense. And maybe also nuno ogitpale ulmash would make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, maybe oda pale ulmash would also make sense.
Here I could actually imagine contexts where first person might actually make sense when you learn later to your surprise that you thought you knew something but you didn't, or you thought you knew somebody but you didn't, or so. So like a mirative reading is not completely incompatible with this. Okay, then Sandra, the third one.
So we have the udet ulmash. You used to what's it called? Sow, as in bring out grains and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have tudo uda ulmash. I don't think the mirative reading makes much sense here.
No, not really.
And then they udeda, sorry. Te udeda ulmash, and nuno. I wrote it down, so I have to look. Nuno udat ulmash.
So this udash verb, this is used in a very important phrase in Mari 2. I'm looking it up before I give you false information, but oh, come on. Mom udet tudum tyredat. You want to guess what that might mean? Anyone want to guess?
You reap what you sow.
Exactly. So mom udet, that what so what you reap, sorry, what you sow, tudum tyredat, that you get to cut, basically. Yeah, and it has exactly the same connotations like the English phrase. Okay, then the third one, here again, like first person would be permissible. Like it turns out that I didn't understand it. So I'll do it in all persons here. Mi umlo ulmash, ti ot umlo olmash, ulmash, tudo ok or ogesh umlo ulmash, me ogena umlo ulmash, te ogeda umlo ulmash, and nuno oged umlo ulmash. Okay, so here we get one sentence in the singular and we want to put in the plural. Valentina?
Tivashmutim poet ulmash. So it turns out you gave your answer. Tevashmutin pueda ulmash.
Yeah. Then Sandra?
Turu redactie is de samenstaan ulmash. He, she, they used to work in the editorial office. Nuno redactie is de pasam istat ulmash.
Very good. And then Vuilatshe pashash uyenim purta ulmash. So the boss introduced new methods into the work, it turns out, and Vuilatshe vlak pashash uyenim purtat ulmash. Okay, so now negation. Valentina?
Okay. Tudo tishte shuker sek ila ulmash. So he, she, they used to live. I'm not sure about shukertsek.
Like since long ago, from a long time ago.
So here for a long time. Okay, tudo tishte shukerstek ok ile ulmash.
Very good. Then Sandra?
Memnan ozanlik na puchesh kodesh ulmash. Wait, puchesh and kodesh go together, right?
Yes, it's a set phrase, pochesh kodash. We have
okay, because I briefly got confused because I thought it was a postposition, but it didn't make sense.
Pochesh it's both an adverb and a postposition, and I mean
I know, but one reading didn't make much sense.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is there is also a verb pochash which has a third person singular form pochesh.
Oh, nice.
So, but it is a bit irritating that the esh here is actually historically the lative ending, because I mean this word pochesh means into the tail, and kodesh, the esh, is here the verbal ending. So that's just two endings that look the same but are not.
So it turns out that our farm lagged behind.
Yep.
And then we have memnan on ozanlik na puchesh ok kot ulmash.
Very good. Yep. And I'll do the last one. Yochavlak tunam kolem kuchat ulmash. The children were fishing then. Yuchavlak tunam kolum ogid kucho ulmash. They were not. Okay, formation of the future-necessitive participle of the given words, and we can do it just with Valentina, Sandra, me, and I won't call people every time. So and we'll start with Valentina.
This is vozash, but it's vozam. So from the first conjugation, it's not so that would be vozshash.
You have to be careful here. Remember the alternation that happens. So vozash is to lie down and to fall and such. And we had this alternation, the z, like think of visit, the numeral 5, where we had the long form visit with the z, but the short form is not vis, but
is it with ch?
It's ch, exactly. Because
so, voch, shash.
Exactly. Because like originally Mari phonotactics did not allow for z in the syllable final position, that you only would have z between vowels. This is not necessarily true today because we have loan words where this happens, not just Russian ones. And I mean, in the Russian ones, you have final consonant devoicing anyway. So z would be pronounced as s, but also like in some Arabic Persian loan words like kagaz, the paper. If that word had entered Mari earlier, it would probably be kagach. But since it came after this sound law was in effect, it's kagaz, kagaz. Yeah, I put in some consonant, final consonant devoicing from German too sometimes. Okay, so then Sandra. Yeah, and maybe also I say what the verb means.
To do that which needs to be done.
Tergash, that's to check or to examine. Tergeshash.
Then we have kuralash, is it to plow? Kuralshash.
Yep.
Really, is it kuralshash and a kuralishash?
Unless I'm completely mistaken, it's kuralshash. Yes.
Okay, then I made a mistake there. That's fine. So udash, and that should be udashash.
Yeah. So that was
to sow.
Yeah. Uyangdash, that is to fertilize. Literally, it is like to butterify or something like that. That uy is butter, but also oil. And then uyangash would be with this derivational suffix that we recently looked at, to become containing buttery or oil. And then that the transitive derivation from that to like to add something to it. And then there would be uyangdashash.
Then ashnash, ashnshash.
Can you say it again?
Ashnshash.
Ashneshash.
Ashneshash, but I forgot the meaning of the verb.
Yeah, it's like to look after, like animals, to raise.
And then we have sitash, and that should be sitashash. Trying to remember, was that to suffice?
Yes, yes, exactly. And like you very often you just hear this as a single word sentence, sita, and it's like enough. Es reicht in German. That's enough or so. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so then we'll translate these six phrases. Vozeshash pasha, the work that is to be written.
Okay. Then dictant is a dictation, but I forgot the meaning of tergash again.
To check, examine.
Okay, so the dictation which should be checked.
Korashash basur, the field that needs to be plowed.
Yudashash pirche, like the seed that should be sown.
Ashnishash volik. So it's the cattle which should be looked after.
And Sitishash Basha, the work that is enough.
The work that's got to be enough, basically. The word that will have to suffice.
Ah, okay.
So here we see that the future-necessitive participle, it can be active or passive reading depending on what the context allows for. And in most of these, we had passive readings, like the work to which this must be done. But here we had an active reading, the work which must do this. Okay, so mix and match and see what makes sense. Soloshash, I'll say Soloshash shudo, the grass which must be cut. Oh, I'm gonna mark this some way like this. Okay.
Okay, then I would say Tolshash Una, the guest who should come.
And then we have Yushash M, the medication that needs to be taken.
Yep, this is very good. Theoretically, this could have, like, I would have also, like, Yushash Una would be a guest that has to drink. And yeah, that happens.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that this is what's in the...
Sounds very Eastern European.
Yes, it is. Okay, Sholtashash. Let me see, what is there? Sholtashash, is there chai or something like that? No, sure. The soup which must be cooked.
So Ishtishash, Pasha, I would say the job which must be done.
Shindashash, Pushinga, the tree that must be planted.
Very good. Oh, I'm screwing up my colors here, so we won't need it. Okay. Chongeshash, Pert, the house which must be built, the house to build.
And then very challenging, Tunemshash, Pachulamut, so it's a saying, right, which must be learned.
A poem.
Poem, yeah.
So that's also a very Eastern European concept.
Yes.
There's a lot of this in schools, and if you do the Mari summer school, they also make you learn some poems.
Oh boy.
Okay. Okay. So we just want to see if we can decipher the productive morphology that we already know, and we'll start with Sandra.
We love the shell. Which is the boss, comes from the verb volatash, to lead.
Yeah, and that in turn, that's then not so transparent anymore, but that comes from vui, head then. So viangdeme is like strengthened, developed, and that's the passive participle of viangdash, which is to strengthen. That in turn comes from viangash, to become strong, and that in turn comes from vi, strength, might, force.
Okay, then we have purtemo. I guess that comes from portage, but I forgot the meaning of the verb.
So purtage is like to enter, to bring something in. And do you know what that could be derived from?
So from to give. Pourage.
No, there's pour. Yeah, Sandra.
And is it from pourage, to start?
Yeah, pourage, to go into.
Oh.
Yeah.
But also like to start to boil. And that's...
Yeah, exactly. In some phrases, it can be like inquisitive-ish, yeah. But I would classify this as individual set phrases, like going into boiling and starting to boil. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then I think it was Sandra's turn.
Ishtemash. the doing from ishtash, to do.
Yeah. Yodash, the question from Yodash, to ask.
Then kocho, the staying, from kodash, to stay.
Or like staying in the sense of an adjective, the friend, or like the friend who is staying, the staying friend. So yeah.
Kuchildma from kuchiltash. But I forgot the meaning.
To use, to utilize. And it's derivation, it's not entirely transparent to me, of like to grab or so. Okay, lektish, like result, the output, that comes from lektash, to come out or so.
Shonemash, I think that's from shonash, to think.
Again, ishtime from ishtash, to do.
Yeah. Kaime from kayash, to go.
And then kusnemo, is it kusnash? But I forgot the meaning.
It's like to move, to relocate, or in that sense. Yeah. Like, or also just to move from X to Y or so.
Onchıç, from onchıç, to see.
Then sitare man, like must be provided. That goes back to sitarash, which is then to provide. That in turn is derived from, well, sort of derived from sitash, to suffice. I had those air quotes there because this is actually Chuvash morphology that was already there when these words were borrowed. So this is not a Mari internal development that we're observing here. Yeah.
Then we have chongal-che. I think that's chongal-tash, to fly, if I'm not mistaken.
No, chongeshtash is to fly. Chongal-tash is?
I'm not sure.
Okay, it's again derived from chongash, which was
the soul, right?
These are very similar words by a sound structure, but chongash is to build. And chongal-tash is then to be built, and chongal-che is built in the sense.
Right, it was in the text, yeah, when they were building the roads.
Yeah, and there's like this Bulgem Chongalche Bulgem Ulgemotzech, I think, like the clothes sewing workshop had been built, or no, it was in a freshly built house or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 stories.
Yeah.
I had that sentence.
I still have the nightmares, huh?
Not really, but just ring a bell. Urgemo from Urgash, which to my great disappointment does not mean Ogieren in German.
No, it's nice, but it isn't.
But I looked it up earlier, but I forgot again.
It's to sew.
We have 2 words for to sew?
No,
to as in stitch together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you thinking how rural can your
how thorough?
Okay. Yeah, it's like that urban legend with that 100 words for snow that the Eskimos have.
Right.
This was really a challenge for Timothy Lisa and me when we were working on the Mari English dictionary, all the beekeeping terminology, where we would often have like a description of what the tool is in Russian, and then we would translate it. But like English-speaking beekeepers might actually have a word for this thing, but what do we know? What you call the stick that is used to scrape the royal jelly from the inside of the queen's cell, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So which phrases did we have for all of these things? Up to now we had Kizet Marte.
Then in a short period of time, So time is job.
Mhm.
So could it be easy? Job işte?
Almost küçük job işte.
Küçük job işte.
Küçük is short then. Yeah. Sandra?
To put back on one's feet. I could look it up in the text, but
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if YOL is in there.
It is. Y'all.
Way to put into a standing position.
Mhm.
Is it pishtash?
Pishtash would be the lying position. And the standing, it is derived from, so it's derived from the verb shogash. There's shogash, to stand. And then there's shogalash, which is also stand, but it's like German, it would be sich hinstellen somewhere. It's like to go somewhere and stand there, like go and stand beside a tree. And then from that, it is the transitive derivation, shogaltash, to make something stand somewhere.
Okay, so.
But we're missing the onto supposed position. Umbake, very good. Y'all Umbake, shogaltash. Okay, in the last few years is petartish ilashte. When the ilashte is the e, a year, the la, the short plural suffix, which we have in combination with spatial, with the local cases, and an initiative ending. Yeah.
Okay, then the will to work, I have seen it. So he was complaining about young people not wanting to work in the field. I will find it. Just a second. I can see here Mlandilan Oza Ulmishtim Mondanit, so they have forgotten how to like do the work.
They have forgotten that they are the masters to the land.
Yes.
And it's in the next sentence after that.
Yes. So Pasha Kumeltish Volan.
Exactly. Pasha Kumel. And this word kumel, it's a very nice word that doesn't have a one-to-one correspondence in English, really. It's a bit better in German. There's Laune. It sort of works like that. So it's like mood, but also will, spirit, something going in that direction. Okay, then Sandra?
In this regard, was it's something starting with the sibilant, and then in the initiative.
Yeah, it's. I'm not sure if it helps. It's a Russian loanword, actually, an older one. Yeah.
I mean, if it's an old, like how old are we speaking?
Oh, I really can't say. It's old enough.
Then it's probably with a sh in the beginning.
Though. It is.
But then we have a u on o.
Very good.
But I don't actually know.
Tita shotesto.
Okay.
And it's from the Russian word meaning like count.
Short. Oh my God, it would never come to my mind.
But don't we also have chot?
There's also chot, like a lot. That's unrelated from the Russian.
Okay.
And like for counting, there's also a derived Mari word shotlash, which is then like just derived from the stem Mari internally. Yeah, exactly. That's the Russian spelling in the chat. So. Okay, this is an interesting thing if one works with Hill-Mari, is that like the stereotype that the Meta-Maris have about the Hill-Maris is, oh, they have so many Russian words, they're so Russified, and I mean it is partially true. There is a lot more Russian in Hill-Mari than there is in Meta-Mari, but since the Hill-Maris already came under Russian control like at the beginning of the 16th century and had more affinity towards Russia, or Muscovy at the time, the Russian loanwords are older in Hill-Mari, which means that there are more sound changes and there are more semantic shifts in a lot of the Russian words that you have in Hill-Mari. And so often you'll have even more in Hill-Mari things where you hear like some word and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's Russian XYZ. And oftentimes you'll also have some words in not just Hill-Mari in general in Mari, you will often have words that are like definitely of East Slavic origin, but do not exist in modern Russian, at least not modern literary Russian. And then often you'll have similar words, you'll suddenly stumble upon similar words in Ukrainian and wonder, oh my God, what's going on? But it's the fact that it's not that it's like some new Ukrainian loanword in Mari or anything like that. It's just that Russian lost some stem that Mari didn't, but then maybe other East Slavic languages or other contact languages would not have lost. And a classical example for this is Pert, which one then also has in various Baltic Finnic languages, like in Karelian as Pirti or so, from the same Russian stem. But modern Russian doesn't really have it anymore.
Latvian also has that, the word for sauna.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, yeah, then it was my turn. Workforce is Pasha V.
Okay, then to count on one's fingers, then I guess the context was that people willing to do this kind of work can be counted on, like are very few.
Yeah, I think I was specifically talking about women, that there are very few of them.
Okay.
Count them on your fingers.
Okay. So there was a part about girls. Yeah. Here I remember Posnak udir vlaklan pasha vershagal. So it should be somewhere here. Is it udir vlakim parnia denat shutlan lektash liesh?
Exactly. So, parnia dene shutlen lektash. So yeah, parnia, it's finger, also toe, with the finger. And here, this is this shotlash that we already had, like counting. And shotlendektash is an spectral converb construction, meaning like counting to the end. It's like in German, you would do it with a prefix, for example. It's the difference between zählen and abzählen, maybe. It's going in that direction. Okay, and then Sandra gets the last one.
Viewing workshop, is that urgemotzech?
Vorgem urgemotzech would be.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, number 9, we want to form some adjectives. Oh, that's all there is. Okay. Kumda, broadly is kumdan.
Then, if I remember correctly, it was nachar, nacharin, poorly.
Yeah, poor, weak, and the such.
Küçük, küçüken?
Lushkedo.
Small.
Yeah, short. Yeah.
Short.
Lushkedo is weak, powerless. Lushkeden.
Then kushtilgo, kushtilgen, but I forgot the meaning.
Kushtilgo is easy.
Easy.
Silna, silnen, handsome, beautiful.
Very good. Okay, read and translate time. Evai, shudana tini ushgalan sita, sitarash tichena. Evai, does our grass this year suffice for the cows? Is there enough grass for the cows? Sitarash tichena, we will try to supply plentiful, we will try to get enough of it.
Okay. Mo posiadam peš načaren išteda. Vojla tišina načar, pašajat načar. Okay. So I'll start from the second part, which is more transparent for me. I guess that if the leading or if the supervision is poor, then
if
the
our
work,
supervisor, volatische,
volatische,
if our supervisor is poor,
then the work, the quality of the work is poor as well.
Yeah.
And then the first part, I guess it means like why is the work or why have you performed the work so poorly?
Yeah, it's present tense actually. Why are you working so poorly?
Wow. What a,
it's like some
what a
brutal,
burn.
some brutal shaming and then some brutal buck passing. Yeah. Yeah.
People in Russia are direct.
Yep.
Okay, so till det förut kundan palme. Kundan to dem ves in a lastat palat. Is this artist widely known? Widely, he, she, they is widely known. They he, she, they is known in other countries.
Exactly.
As well.
As well, exactly. So it's la Stadt, very nice. Okay, it's la Stadt. So land, country, la plural. St is what's left of the initiative, ste, and then at also this additive, the additive particle. Okay. Uvi ozanlik igich ish viang tolesh. The farm, but originally kolkhoz, UV, new force, is developing, getting stronger from year to year. Vulatische shke ozanliksham viang demashte peshkugun tirsha. So the boss is tirsha, is making great efforts in the like peshkugun tirsha is like making great efforts in the development, the strengthening of their own enterprise. Yeah.
Nunin pasha lektischt kugu genat ishe kugem nicht. Okay, so their work, like, so is it like departure to work or
no? It's
starting
here.
Work.
It's here. It's a compound from pasha, work, and lektish, result, output, and the such.
I see. Okay, so there is it a hypothetical construction? So if
it's a concessive construction, even though,
yeah, their work productivity is high, I guess it can still grow.
Kugem dash is to grow something transitively.
So it can still increase.
What is this ne?
Is it a desiderative?
Yes.
It could still increase, or we would.
Is What person is this?
It's a third plural.
Okay, so it's third plural of a positive of a transitive verb in the desiderative. So what would it literally mean?
So is it refers to them, right? They want to increase it further.
Exactly. That's exactly. Okay.
Tiri kustil go kidan manet. Wait, manash was one of the many verbs of utterance. I forgot what kidan is.
Kit, it's you know kit.
The hand.
And an is?
Well, no, I mean, is it like this, like ergan, having sons?
Exactly. So kidan is having a hand, but it makes sense when you take the word before into consideration. Then it comes together.
Wait, what was that? Easy?
Exactly.
Having an easy hand? Like being talented, or is that just literally what it says?
Yeah, that's what it then means. It doesn't mean like having a predisposition towards stealing stuff, as it would in other languages. It means that they're talented with their hands. So it is.
It is so. It is said this this person is talented. Exactly,
is like light-handed, and what that means, i.e., talented. And then now it's just explaining what this means.
Momestash tungalesh shilajamat kustilgenda sayen ishta. Okay. Whatever he starts to do, or she, he, she, they does well and kustilgo and easily. So everything, whatever this person starts to do, everything they do easily and well.
Exactly, yeah. So with little effort and well. Okay. Now we want to make sure that we get küçük, short, and kuju right, whatever makes more sense. I'm guessing in some sentences both would in theory work, but let's see. Soloshoblak pashashtem küçük japishte pitarenet. So the cutters, the
mowers,
the haymakers, maybe. Yeah, the hay mowers finished their work in a short time.
Okay. Memnam uremna pesh, both would theoretically fit, but I would say kujo.
Yeah.
Our street is very long.
Right. So next one, there's only one right answer.
Also, Tilim küçük, yud kuju, kenijim kuju, yud küçük. In winter, days are short and nights are long. In summer, days are long and nights are short.
Very good. Okay, now comes some body shaming. Tide yengen nerje pesh kuju. This person's nose is very long.
Okay, then here, maybe kuju. Puncho vlak užargin shogat. So tall pines stay green.
Yeah, literally they are standing, going green or turning green or so, but they're just basically, they're just green. That's what we're saying. Okay. Yeah, right sentence into the right clause, and we start with Sandra.
Can you help me what arrende was?
Arrende is it's like rent, and like arrende is like the rental method. I can't really, I don't understand the economic system to say exactly what is meant with that, but I think the way I understand it is that rather than having everything in state ownership and you're an employee of the state, you get to rent plots of land. Which around 1990 was a pretty wild concept.
Okay, memnan ozan lekom dan arrende yunem. Kuchiltesh?
Yep. And that means?
Our farm has widely, I'm not sure. Wait, there was. You explained it earlier because I think I asked as well. I mean, that has to do with kuchash, to grab, to catch.
Originally, yes, but here it didn't, like kucheltash is to use.
Okay. Widely used the rent method.
Yeah. Vuilatischen passage kushtelgo ogel. A boss's work is not easy.
A single tear rolls down.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Kizit kalikim easy problem.
I think there's actually a word missing here. I think it should be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Turgish Landara.
Yeah.
So nowadays is it like people are worried about issues in the village?
Yeah, the
village
little village issues. Yeah, it's like literally, it's like the little village issues are upsetting or are worrying the people. But yeah. Okay, then Sandra.
We are against it.
We are.
Oh, sorry. I am against it.
Yeah. This is a very important thing. Like it's a counterpart. Like in Russian, if you refer something against something, you say it is ya za, ya protiv, and in Mari, then the тореш is the protiv. That's like my verch ulam, my тореш ulam. And these are like very frequently used phrases in Russian. I remember once seeing an interview with a Mari linguist where an interviewer asked her, it was in Russian, and an interviewer asked her an endlessly long question about like policies in language maintenance as they are gone. And the interviewer asked for like half a minute, went on with all these and elaborated the question. And the interviewer, she was just sort of sitting there thinking, and she said, "Yaza," and then moved on to the next question.
Can you then, in theory, say something like "me тореш," like like "yani protiv," which basically means yes.
Me тореш omel.
Тореш omel.
Yep. Yep, and it is. I'd have to check in the corpus how often it is used, but it is my feeling, my gut feeling says that it's used a lot because manipulative. Okay, then it's my turn. Let me see. It's now verb of the verbs of position. So ava easy yocham onchikejo. I'm gonna guess shinda, and easy yocha avan onchilnejo shincha. So the mother puts the little child in front of her, and it's sitting in front of her. And yes, that's what's in there.
Okay, then tudo telefonim kusenish. Let me see. So he, she, they puts the telephone into the pocket. What could fit? Let me see. So I would say opta.
Opta is only if you do something repeatedly. So opta has this kind of this iterative aspect to it, like
Right.
tables. But there is a verb that is the same movement but just once.
Pishta.
Pishta. Very good.
Pishta. And then it would be telefon küsenişte kia.
Yep, that's right. And I'm not sure at this point. I have the feeling that it might have been the Timothy Lisa, and I wanted to add this exercise after Emma and Galina were noting that I used Pishta and Pishtash and Shindash wrong. That we say, okay, if you tell us that it's wrong, then we have to have an exercise with this too. Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult, yeah.
Yeah. Then Sandra?
Palto et skaffish sake. Palto skaffish the kecha.
Very good.
Hang your coat on the wardrobe, and the coat is hanging in the wardrobe.
Right. So now comes the only one missing is standing. So Tudo nigunam yocham lukish ok shogalte. So he, she, they never put the child into the corner. And then yocha nigunam lukish do ok shogo. The child never stands in the corner. Okay. And one last exercise with these verbs, and we start with Valentina.
Okay. Avatin muchim wishet. So is it like you should put your mother's words into your head?
Yep.
Okay, what could fit here?
I think it's kind of, it's idiomatic, and it feels a bit arbitrary, but
let me think. I would still say Beşiktaş.
Yes, but imperative then?
Pişt?
Pişte.
Pişte, because it's second.
Okay, Sandra gets one where there would be several possibilities, in my opinion.
Pyrrhus devanishta Kia.
Yeah. I could also imagine a chincha, but yeah.
The cat is lying on the sofa.
Yep. And then Tudo Syretem Saka, she, he, they hangs up the picture.
Üstel bölem pokszelne. Okay. In the middle. I don't know. What is bölem?
Room.
Oh yeah, right. And üstel?
Table.
Oh yeah, like then the table is in the middle of the room. Then that is sugar. Yeah, sugar.
Very good. And then Sandra gets the last one.
Make nigam sunkashke bestem. I put the book in my bag.
Okay, so that's it with the exercises in this lesson. I don't think we have to do the listening comprehension this week. There's a lot of listening comprehension coming up from starting in chapter 21. We'll still see how we can do that then. Okay, so I'm at this point going to end the recording.